We're Ariel.
And Michelle. And we're the Board Game Tutors.
And we're going to be teaching you part 3 of Summoner Wars, going over specifically turn 1 and turn 2 in a normal game of Summoner Wars.
And this is part 3 in our Just the Basics series.
Yep. And so first, to start out the game, we're each going to roll a die. I'm going to roll 1 die, and Michelle's going to roll 1 die. Whoever gets the higher number decides who goes first. I rolled a 6.
I rolled a 3.
And so I will start first. So I'm going to say I'll start the game first. So Michelle's going to bring the camera over here.
All right.
We're going to start the first turn. Now, when you set up the game, obviously you look at the board, it's already set up as it is. Each army or faction in the game has their own reference card. It's unique from all the other cards in their deck. On one side, it tells you the starting setup of the game, what units you need to have, and where you need to place them on the board. And on the other side of the card, that's the summary of turn phase, as well as your event cards, a list of all the ones that you're supposed to have in your deck. So first, as you can see on this card, this tells you exactly where to put your starting units, your pawns basically, and your summoner, your king, aka your king. And we will also put a wall down there. And as you can see here, there's my summoner, Takulu, right here. And that's what S means. I have several basic units. If you look at this key up here, B's are controllers, A's are deceivers, and I place them onto the board in the appropriate places, and W stands for wall, and I put my 1 wall right here. And yeah, so it's all set up, and now we can start with the first turn. So one important thing when you're the first turn player is you skip draw, where you would normally be drawing 5 cards out of your draw deck into your hand and holding that in your hand. You skip summoning, which lets you put people onto the board. And you also skip phase 3, which is play event cards. So basically, half your turn's over if you're the first player. And basically, you skip on to step 4, step 5, and step 6. So first, step 4, movement. So in previous episodes, we've gone over how movement goes. So first, for my turn, which will be a pretty short turn, I'm going to be moving 2 of my units. I can move any of my cards except my wall. My wall always remains stationary and does not move out of the place that it currently starts in. So I'm going to move 2 of my cards, 2 of my units. I could even move to Kulu if I wanted to, but might not be the best choice to do that right now. So I'm going to be moving this Deceiver, 1 space, 2 spaces. So as I told you in the previous video, you can move each card during your movement phase 2 spaces, up, down, left, and right. Also, I'm going to be moving this controller here 1 space to the left and 1 space up. So now, that's your big limitation when you're the first turn player. You can only move 2 of your cards. Normally you can move 3. All right, so I moved those 2 cards, and now I can go on to step 5, attack. So are there any cards that are next to or within range of my units? So the way we can check that here is this controller, this is a ranged person because there's a bow and arrow symbol. This deceiver is also a ranged person because they have a bow and arrow. So those 2 can attack anyone within 3 spaces of them. That is part of the enemy army. So what we're going to do here is everybody else, they're too far away from anyone on the enemy army side. So the controller, he's going to be rolling 2 dice. That's what that big number means, remember. He's going to roll 2 dice against the enemy wall. This is kind of important here because if you look at the enemy wall, there are 9 dots on the bottom. Remember how I told you in the previous video, all the dots here tell you how many hit points that person has? Well, walls are basically stationary event cards. They are stuck where they are, and they have 9 hit points. So they block people, and they also act as summoning places. So this controller is going to roll 2 dice against that enemy wall. So I'm rolling 2 dice. I rolled 2 successful hits, so that means I'm going to be placing 2 wounds. 1, 2. Like I said, this has 9 hit points, so it has lost 2 hit points, so there are 7 hit points remaining. Now, the only other person I can use to attack somebody is this deceiver. She rolls 1 die. She's within 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, of that gunner. You can't read it very well because it's upside down, but she's going to be rolling 1 ranged dice against that gunner. Nothing. It's a 1. That means I missed, so nothing happens. And if I had gotten a 3 or a 4, that gunner would now be dead, and she would go into my magic pile. But I wasn't successful. And I also, step 6, build magic. I can't do that right now because I don't have any cards in my hand. So my turn's over. Turn 1 is over. Now we're going to go to Michelle's turn.
Okay, I'm going to come over here and sit down and look at my cards. So normally the first step that you do on your turn is to draw cards, but in my case I went ahead and set them out already. I have 5 cards. You always draw up to a hand of 5 cards. And so I've laid them out. So normally you would not put your cards where someone else can see them because you want to keep that a secret. You want to keep a secret what you have in your hand. But just for the purposes of this video, I went ahead and laid them out so we can look at them more easily. So then step 2 for a normal turn is going to be to summon. Now, you need to have some magic, usually in your magic pile, in order to summon any units, but there are some units that actually have a summon cost of 0. So looking at the 5 cards that I have here in my hand, I actually have 2 right now in my hand with a summon cost of 0. And they are both thieves. So you can see here it costs 0 to summon. And there's a 0 right there. So I can go ahead and summon both of my thieves. I don't have to worry about any magic cost. So let's see where they would be best to place. So you always have to summon, of course, next to a wall. I'm going to go ahead and put one out here. And let's see. I will put one here. Okay. And then once you've done any summoning you can do, so I did have one other unit in my hand, which is actually a champion. Her name is Violet, and we can see here that she would cost 4 to summon. So I don't have any magic, like I said, so I will not be able to summon her this turn. Okay, then my third step for a normal turn is to play event cards. I have 2 cards that are considered event cards right now. One is called Magic Drain. So event cards are always unique to your deck, the faction that you're playing, and some of them do exist in more than one deck. But we're going to go over all of those when we do our videos on the various factions that exist in this game. So Magic Drain is the event that I currently have out, and I actually won't be able to play that right now because there are often requirements about when you can play various event cards. And for this one, I would have to have fewer units on the board than my opponent, and I'm pretty sure I don't right now. So
I have 5.
yes, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think. So I definitely don't have fewer units right now. So that's something to keep in mind. And then I've also got a wall, which is actually an event card. So I'm going to go ahead and place that wall on the board right now during my event phase. And let's see. So you always want to put quite a bit of thought into where you put your wall because they don't move once you place them. So for now, I think I would put it here because, if you can see that, and you always place it on your side of the board. That's important. So here this line divides the board. So I need to put it anywhere on this side. And of course, it can't go on top of a card that already exists. So I will put it there. One good reason to put it in a spot like that would be so that in the future, if you summon a unit there, you can move it as far as possible into your enemy territory. It would actually start in the enemy's territory. Okay, so now I'm on to part 4, movement. So let's see. I can move up to 3 units. On a normal turn, you can always move up to 3 units as long as you're not on the starting turn for the first player.
And I can move them for you.
Okay, so let's see. What have I got here? So I would move, let's move this thief 1 forward.
He's moving 1 space forward.
So he's now beside the controller, and he is not a ranged unit, so he needs to be adjacent next to anyone he's going to want to attack this turn.
He has a sword right there, so he's a melee fighter.
That's right. And then we've got this other thief who I also want to move forward. Thank you.
Once or twice?
Twice, please. So as we've told you before, you can move up to 2 spaces. And then, let's see, my gunner actually doesn't need to move. She can attack from where she is. So I think those are going to be my movements.
Okay.
And I could consider moving any of these other units, but for now I think I'm just going to stick with the 2 thieves. Okay, so now is our attack phase. So first I'm going to have the gunner shoot at the deceiver. So as we can see, she rolls 1 die from this big number 1 here. So I roll a die, and it's a 5. So I got a hit. I actually destroyed that deceiver.
So whenever that happens, the deceiver only has 1 hit point. So you take that card and you place it into your magic. So that's one way you can build up magic, like we said in the previous video.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now this thief here was going to attack that same deceiver, but he won't need to because she's not there anymore. So that would have been my second attack, but not necessary anymore. And then we can do up to 3 attacks. So this thief is going to attack this controller. So I'm going to roll a die for that. And I got a 2, so I did not get a hit. Okay, and then finally, I'm on part 6, build magic. So I'm going to look at the cards that I still have in my hand. I've got Violet, the champion that I couldn't summon, and Magic Drain, this event card. So, I'd probably think about this for a while, but I might decide I'm probably not going to summon Violet anytime soon because she's a little bit expensive and not my favorite champion. So I might go ahead and place her here in my magic pile. That basically means I have that much more magic so that I could summon another unit next turn if I want to. Because I'm going to be drawing up at the beginning of my next turn, I might get a unit that costs 1 or 2 magic and I would then be able to summon it. And then maybe I want to keep Magic Drain in my hand to use for a future turn.
And yeah,
So,
so that was a basic summary of how turn 1 and turn 2 go in a regular game of Summoner Wars. And so basically, the main thing you need to keep in mind about that is turn 1 would be like my turn. I could only do steps 4, 5, and 6. And then when it gets to the second player's turn, they can do all the steps. And so when it comes back to my turn again, I would finally actually be able to draw up. And yeah, basically after the first player's turn, uh, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, um, all those turns, you would follow all the steps. Turn 1 is the only exception to the rule. And I think that was everything we wanted to cover today.
all right.
Yeah, and so we'll see you in the next video where we're going to start going over each of the individual factions and going over all the unique rules about each of them, because that's really where the meat of how you can break the rules, how you can bend the rules, that sort of thing takes place. So we will see you in the next video.
All right, thank you so much. Bye.
Great day. Have a great day. Bye.